All right, let's get into it. Hello. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely Wednesday. We took a little break last week, but we are back. It's a little bit of a slower news week in the nerd world the last couple of weeks, but things are about to start picking up again in March, so that's very exciting. You might have to bear with me a little bit today because I haven't talked to a single living person all day long, so I feel like my mouth is making weird noises right now. But anyways, it's Book of Boba time. So, Book of Boba season finale happened just a couple hours ago. And like I did before in my previous stream, hold on, cough. Like I did before in my previous stream, I wanted to wait to talk about Book of Boba until there was a group of episodes to talk about because especially with this show, it's kind of hard to judge each episode individually, and I have a very different outtake on it when I view it more as a complete product. So let's just get into the nitty gritty. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about just like overall feelings about Book of Boba, and then I'll go more into the details like episode by episode. So the Book of Boba, right? It was a really slow burn for me. I'm not gonna lie. And honestly, if I'm being honest, it didn't burn super hot at many points. But yeah, brain fart. But anyways, I was gonna say. Episodes 5 to 7 were a significant improvement for the show, like huge improvement. But while episodes 5 to 7 were better, to me, it's not really a good sign when the best episodes have nothing to do with the main character. Like, it feels like halfway through his own show, they kind of just like gave up on him and were like, let's get back to the Mandalorian. He's more interesting. And he was a little more interesting. And I think a lot of it, unfortunately, has to do with they already kind of did a Boba Fett style character with the Mandalorian. So by the time the Book of Boba Fett show came around, it kind of feels like a been there, done that in terms of like theme and persona and just like the way he acts and the way he's going through the world. And, while I do love establishing the greater Star Wars TV universe, but just speaking for Boba specifically, there was nothing in particular about him that I found super compelling. Sorry, I'm like reading my notes and I'm a little rusty. Yeah, going back to Boba Fett. So that is kind of my overall feeling with the show, that it's kind of hilariously sad that Book of Boba was best when Boba Fett wasn't even in it. Like, even in the finale, it kind of felt like he was more of a set piece that the more interesting characters were interacting with, as opposed to being the main character that's supposed to be commanding the most attention of the show. So I don't know. I feel like the show up until the end didn't really know what it was trying to say. Like, there were very few memorable moments of substance that really justified the story's existence, if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel like it knew what it was trying to say about Boba Fett, about the setting that they were in, about the Star Wars world that they were interacting in that current moment. It felt like all the pieces of substance and all the memorable parts, like the best parts of the story, actually had nothing to do with the story. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tongue twister. What I mean is, like, the best parts of it to me were like the visuals and the cameos and the Easter eggs and the music, and none of that has to do with Boba Fett. That doesn't really tell me anything about Boba Fett or his story. So the show in general was just lacking a lot of new and original ideas. And I've talked about this before in terms of like, just because it's not original, or it doesn't have to be original to be good, like, but if it's not going to be original, then you have to make it up for it with like really strong writing and strong performances and like compelling, engaging moments. So in a medium, especially, or in a franchise that is getting really bogged down with a lot of mundane, run-of-the-mill, same shit, different day, again, Star Wars didn't really say anything new, which kind of sucks. And the things that it did say were new. The new and interesting story parts that it did do were given to the Mandalorian. So, yeah, pretty much lacking on the interesting ideas. I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking a little scattered right now, guys. Like I said, I haven't talked to a single person today, and I probably should have done more of that. But yeah. Basically, what Book of Boba Fett felt like to me was a filler piece and like a setup for the next phase of The Mandalorian, which is great for The Mandalorian. I mean, but like we've seen this a million times with Marvel where, you know, it's still good for the greater universe, but it does nothing for the individual character that it's trying to feature, right? Like as a Star Wars fan, I'm happy because we're establishing the greater universe. We're giving more lore and extending the narrative of The Mandalorian. But I'm also sad because as a Star Wars fan, I want to connect with Boba Fett. Like I want to hear his story. I want to also go into this lane as well. But, you know, kind of like when the Marvel Cinematic Universe just has an Ant-Man or something, and it's like, it was cool, and like it was still great, and it was still great for the universe, and now the universe gets to do all these cool new things. But as for Ant-Man himself, do I really care? Am I that attached? Am I going to come back to this? Probably not. So that's kind of how I feel on that front. Let me check my notes. I feel like that was a really weird scattered start to the stream. It's what happens when you work from home, you guys. You just sit in your house by yourself and you don't talk to a single person. Then it comes to talking, and then your brain's like, I forgot how to do that. So let's see if I forgot anything. Yeah, that's basically it on my thoughts kind of as Mandalorian as a whole. But now we can kind of start getting into like the nitty gritty. And okay, great. As I give my overall thoughts, I'm like thinking a little slow, but now that I've started talking for 2 seconds, now my brain's finally starting to turn on. Damn it. Should have done some warm-ups in the mirror or something. But Episode 5, I'm talking about episodes 5 to 7, if you guys are not aware. And now at this point, spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen the show, it's about to get spoiled for you. And if you're not okay with that, leave. Episode 5 really turned the shift for me because episodes 1 through 4 hadn't really done much to impress me. Like I was kind of losing interest. I didn't really know why I was watching this show or like why I should care about anyone in this show. And then episode 5 happened, and then it was like, boom, I was back in. But that is to say, episode 5 just stopped being Book of Boba Fett, and it just became a Mandalorian miniseries. But that episode was done very, very well. Hold on, I have to burp. Episode 5 came in, and I actually think that Bryce Dallas Howard did a really good job with this episode. She's the one who directed it. I think she has a really good eye for like framing and color and movement, especially like with the story and the tone itself. So I was really, really impressed by this one. There are a couple things that stood out to me. Like, for instance, it had a great opening sequence. So what the Book of Boba, oh God, you guys, is going to be a lot of tongue twisters. What the Book of Boba has been missing a lot is a lot of wow moments, a lot of good action, a lot of compelling moments, like things that make you lean in, pay attention, open your eyes. And the Book of Boba Fett hasn't had a lot of that. It's had like really beautiful things to like muse about, but in terms of like wow value, and I'm talking about like wow in your face, that makes like stirs the bloodstream kind of thing. It's been a little bit lacking on that. So it was super refreshing when I was like, you know, kind of getting a little bored of the show to have that opening sequence with Daryn in that like meat packing factory or whatever it was. Again, I'm probably going to bring this up like 5 other times in the stream, but I love the way they really focus on not just having other humans in this show. Like, it's very heavy on the monsters, and they're not shitty CGI monsters. You can tell it's like special effects makeup. Everyone looks so good, and these monsters were no exception. And it started off with this, and it kind of brought you right back into a story, but in a way that actually I found interesting, which, as some of you guys may know, The Mandalorian isn't my favorite show either, but it not only kind of brought you back into his story where you're like, wow, this dude is still just like, he has no idea what the fuck he's doing with his life. He's just like running around from place to place, kind of like low-key being a hot mess. And then they had, in my opinion, probably like the first really good action sequence of the show with him and the Darksaber. And not only was it a great action sequence, it also brought in a new and interesting element by working in the mechanics of the Darksaber, meaning like it wasn't just like, you know, I was kind of expecting for him to like whip out the Darksaber and then just like pew pew pew, like whooping ass, like kind of like all the other scenes, but it was a struggle, and they added in the struggle and the mishaps that's happening just by wielding this itself into the actual choreography itself. Like, I actually was like rewinding it and like starting it over, and then we got just like a little taste, just like a little bit of a touch of brutality. Right? Like, we got some real brutality in the show, which is another thing this show is missing. Like, I know it's a Disney Plus show and they got to be a little more PG, but this show has been missing like violence. And I can just hear the like 1980s, 1990s headlines or whatever. 80s is probably a little too far back, but like, you know, video games are posing violence in our young people, but violence is it's kind of an integral part of a show when you're telling a story of like a bounty hunter badass living on the fringes of society. And this show has been missing a lot of the action or missing a lot of the brutality. And so when he just like sliced that motherfucker in half, I was like, okay, I am back. Hello, let's do this. But then it also kind of annoyed me because I was like, okay, so they can do it. Okay, so that they are willing to do it, but they just won't. And then we also didn't really like see that again ever. So I was like, okay, so they just did it once. They just gave us a blip, just like a little bit of a touch, but didn't really go back to it. But what else? What else happened? Oh, speaking of the Darksaber, I really, really liked the stuff with the Darksaber, because if I am anything when it comes to Star Wars, I am just like a lore simp. Like, I just love Star Wars lore, like big surprise. I'm a big fantasy fan. So it's like, I like world building. I like, you know, pretend mechanics. I just like new cool stuff. So when they finally started bringing in the Darksaber stuff, and then they also started tying in more of the Mandalorian lore stuff, which I actually think is something that the Mandalorian show, stay with me, I'm like jumping all over, but it's hard to know which show is which since Book of Boba became the Mandalorian, but I digress. I feel like the Mandalorian actually skimps out a lot on the Mandalorian lore, and it's kind of one of my gripes with the show, because as a show that's supposed to be about the Mandalorian and like Mandalorian people and like, you know, you meet Bo-Katan, all this stuff, they're always like hinting at Mandalorian culture, but it's always like in these like vague ass snippets that don't really mean anything, that I can't really like connect to. They're just like, this is the way, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I know abstractly what it means, like I know you can't do this, can't do that, but I just kind of like, in the way you see it in Tusken Raiders, I want to see it. I want to see other people like interacting with it. And so we finally got some Mandalorian lore, which like, no, I've been so hungry for. But I mean, I will say in terms of some of the lore that they gave, they kind of, I mean, and Star Wars has a problem with this in general, where it kind of has, it'll like leave lore, it'll leave things dangling, but like not in a way that's like suspenseful, in a way that's like kind of confusing, where you kind of have to go back and you're like, wait, what? Like, what is that? What was that getting at? Instead of being like, oh shit, what does that mean for this? So it was a little bit of the same, with this. So we got a little bit of a taste, not as much as I'd like, but still really cool. And I was very, very much engaged. And that's just kind of reminds. Should I go on a side tangent, you guys? This is already a messy stream. Let's go on a side tangent. So speaking of things that, I'll explain my train of thought. So yeah, I said they kind of like dangle you with things that are kind of confusing instead of suspenseful. And I think a lot of that has to do, and this is like a big Star Wars problem in general, is that you don't get it unless you're familiar with the source material, which I just don't think is a very strong way to build a show. Like, in my opinion, the source material should only add to the experience. Like, you should be able to come in as a totally, what am I trying to say? Objective viewer, which, I mean, obviously there's like a whole argument, like obviously you need some kind of context to watch a show like that, but I'm saying is you should be able to come in with no knowledge of the source material, have a really enjoyable interesting experience, and then have that inspire you to go back to the source material. And then you go to the source material and you're like, oh shit, did you know this? And did you also know this? And this, and it makes you fall in love with these characters. And it becomes like this circle where it brings people like into the franchise and gives brand recognition and like, you know, gets them more excited. And it's like, but it shouldn't be like the cameos and all that stuff only matter if you know the source material. And then if you don't know the source material, you're like, who's that? Who am I supposed to care? And then they're just like, boom. And when you haven't read the source material, you're like, yeah, like you just don't get it as hard. So that was my train of thought, because like it's similar to that. Sorry, I keep coughing. I forget to mute. Hold on. It reminded me, because with the Darksaber stuff, I had to rewind a little bit. And because I actually wasn't familiar with like the Darksaber stuff from the comics about, you know, it weighing you down the more that you use it. So that wasn't immediately clear to me. But then when I rewound it, then I was like, oh, okay. And then it started to make sense, but it wasn't obvious. Or maybe I'm just dumb. It could just be a personal problem. But, and here's my tangent, I'm finally getting there. What it reminded me of, an example is the whole like Black Chrysanthemum thing, right? So we know who Black Chrysanthemum is because we're Star Wars fans, and he's from the comics. And, you know, if you know him from the comics, you know, like, you know, these certain traits about it, you're excited to see him. But if you're just seeing him in the show for the first time, it's just like a black Wookiee and all the things that, and you don't really know what you're supposed to be attaching to him, other than he's like working for the other side and he's badass. But instead of having like yes, he's a cool character, but you should also give us cool moments. There we are. I'm back on track. Like, he had that one bar brawl scene. Sorry. I thought I heard something. Sorry about that. Like, he had that one bar brawl scene where, you know, he ripped that dude's arm off or whatever. But then if you're familiar with the source material, then you know that it has to go with like a, you know, like a long time like racial feud. And then you know that he's like kind of like this like brutal fighter from these fighting pits and like all this stuff that would like make that scene more interesting. But if you don't know that, then that scene is just okay. And I don't feel like you should have to do homework to enjoy a TV show. It should more be like supplemental reading. But That's a whole other debate. But yeah, now that I went on a side tangent, I have to go back to my notes because now I'm like losing my train of thoughts. Losing my train of thought. But yeah. Anyways, just on the end of that side tangent, it just think of a show like Game of Thrones, right? There's a million tiny characters that have tiny little moments that actually still become their own essences within the show, and you're like excited to see them, and they're like an engaging presence where, you know, with these kind of all these cameos, it just became like this like revolving door of, you know, who's who, where's Waldo, and instead of giving us cool little snippets, like cool little vignettes or interactions with the character. You know what? I'm also thinking maybe this could have been helped if Boba Fett as a character himself was more defined and more complex, because if he was more defined and more complex, then the way that those characters interacted with him would then define something about them. Oh my God, I just had an epiphany. That's why Game of Thrones works, because the main characters are very, you know, self-actualized. Like, you understand them, and so when all these other like little people come and they like interact with them, it makes them make more sense. Oh, okay. So the main thoroughfare of the show was missing, and thus the rest of these little moments suffered. Or unless, I mean, I know they're cool for a lot of people, but I'm just trying to be objective here. But yeah. Anyways, I still think Black Santa's cool. We're probably going to see him in the Kenobi show as well, because they interact in the comics. Yes, he was hunting him. Yeah, Black Santa was like hunting Obi-Wan on Tatooine once, and then like they face off too. So I can see what they're doing. Like, they're bringing in all these characters that not only interact with Boba Fett, they also interact with like all the other things they have going forward. So they're like making a whole smash. But again, their introductions are not that fast. Oh, you know what else I just thought of? For a character, I am sorry, you guys. I really am all over the place today. Another thing that I just thought about in terms of the Black Chrysanthemum thing, this is like the longest, messiest side tangent ever, is that a part of his character, like a defining characteristic of him, is that he's like this brutal fighter. But like in the finale, this is another side, in the finale, when I didn't even see it. Like, he threw guys off him for like a second, but like when he was getting tackled by all those dudes, like he should have just like, yes, he should have gotten bested eventually because they were like losing their upper hand, but he should have had some like gnarly moments where he was just like fucking beating the shit out of like, at least like 4 dudes should have gotten like torn to shreds by him, and then like a big pile of guys fell on. Like, that would have been better, right? Am I wrong? Are you gonna sit here and you're gonna tell me I'm wrong? Wicked Wits of the East, bro. Sorry, it's a verbal internet person tech. Back to episode 6. We're coming back. I'm trying to think what else happened. Oh, the little Grogu. This is so not important. The little Grogu package, I'm sorry, was so stinking cute. I probably pointed out that it was cute when I was watching the show like 3 different times. I can't help it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a Japanese girl. What do you want from me? It was adorable. And speaking of adorable, oh my God. The Grogu moments were certified fucking cute. They were so cute. Okay, we're actually going into episode 6 now. I'm still talking about episode 5. Rounding out episode 5, the last thing that happened was that little like Naboo starfighter thing, which was actually pretty dope. I could have done without some of those like building scenes. I'm not like I get it, but I don't get it. It was more cool to see him like going through God, from the Phantom Menace. Why am I blanking on the name of that race that Anakin wins? But it was like really, really beautiful and well done and well framed to like see him go through all those old places. The ship looked dope. I really, really liked it. I'm glad to see that ship coming back, although I don't like that they don't get to sit with each other anymore. And then let's go into episode 6, because that's all I have to say about that. Yeah. No. At the end of episode 5, I was very confused, though, because I I wasn't sure what the hell was going on anymore. I'm like, how is this all going to tie back to make Boba show make sense? I guess we'll see in the next few episodes if it like comes back to Boba. Spoiler alert, it barely does. So we get to episode 6 and we're still on the Mandalorian show, the Book of Mandalorian. And I was a little shook is an understatement. That de-aging technology they have now is crazy. It's fucking crazy, you guys. Like, holy shit. I know there's like all that shit going around on like TikTok about how they hired that guy from YouTube who fixed him, and damn, they really did a crazy good job with the de-aging on Luke. Obviously, it's a little limited. There's not much you can do in terms of like emotional expressions and talking. The talking is always where it dips a little bit into the uncanny valley. So in any kind of situation where it's like relying mostly on like conversations you're having with a not real person, it can get a little dry, but it was really cool. Oh my god, we got to like see Luke Skywalker finally training people. Grogu is so cute. Honestly, it just makes me laugh how easy, like how smart Disney is. Like they're not the billion-dollar multimedia monster that they are. Like Disney's not stupid. Like Disney knows exactly how to make us cough up those big buku bucks, and it's make something that is so adorable we can't resist. And Grogu is so adorable. Like he's just so stinking cute. I can't handle it. And it was so fun watching him blink, blank, bloop around and become his own little Jedi master, or I guess remembering the Jedi training that he had before. And then, you know, then we got a little appearance from my girl, most favorite character in All Stars, Ahsoka Tano. What? I said that so weird. Ahsoka. We finally got to see her again. I don't really know how I feel about it, only because it feels, again, like a cameo without a lot of substance. And if you don't know who she is from like previous projects, then it doesn't really make sense to you. You're just like, okay, it's some orange chick. I love her. She's one of like my favorite characters of all time. I'm so happy when I see her, but she again was kind of like you don't the character and get the actually okay no this is where I'm kind of changing it to and connecting it to an earlier thought as well. One of the things I was missing about Ahsoka is that what the hell? My video just like connected to my phone. Did you guys hear that? That was literally the weirdest thing in the world. It just started playing randomly. You guys, it scared the shit out of me. Anyways, one of the things that I was missing about Ahsoka, oh my god, come back to it, is I miss her like spunky spirit. So I know that she's older, right? And like the version of her in Rebels is definitely like older as well. She's like a little more reserved. She has kind of a more mature energy, and you know Rebels isn't really the Ahsoka I know and love. It's more a continuation of that. But even in Rebels, even with her like more mature, reserved demeanor, she's still playful. Like she's fun. Like the way that she endears herself to people is she makes them feel comfortable. You know, they kind of like unravel around her. So, I was missing that from her, and I felt like she was a little too like calm Jedi observer from the side, which again is like a I'm not really sure what the choice is for there, but one of the things that I did like about her, that they did capture about her, is that she is, if anything, you know, she's understanding. So she's not like when Din Djarin shows up and he wants to give Grogu his little cute little package, she's not like, you know, you shouldn't see him. It's not good for him. Like, he's here, but like, you can give it to me. I want to. She's just like, listen, like, there he is over there. You know, I know you love him. He loves you, but if you do this, it'll make it really hard for him. That's all I'm saying. Like a very maternal, very like gentle, understanding way. And that is very Ahsoka. But, yeah, I do miss a little bit of her spunky energy. And I don't know if they're going to bring that back for her own show. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of distractions in my house today. There's really loud things going by. But, one of the things that I love the most about her is that she is a very big part of the whole like middle path narrative, right? Where it's like, you're not Jedi, you're not a Sith, you're strong with the Force, but you're somewhere in the middle and you can kind of understand both sides. And that's, I think, my biggest takeaway from that episode that made me excited for, is because after the sequel trilogy, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm still not sure based on all this. I'm not sure if they'll ever go back to the middle path narrative, because they kind of totally shit the bed on that one with the sequel trilogy, which still pisses me off to this day. Like, honestly, I'm just at a point where it's like, I wish they would just say those movies existed in an alternate dimension. Like, I don't even fucking care anymore. But like the Clone Wars animated series saved the prequel trilogies, maybe it's time now for Ahsoka to come in and save the sequel trilogy. So saving the day on both ends. We'll see. But I think what I'm hoping from what has happened with Grogu is that he's going to be similar to her, where he just kind of like walks away from it, but he still retains like the teachings and the learnings and like the connections that he got from it. And it's like, you can still be strong in the Force and like use that to bring balance to the Force and bring balance to the world without having to choose a side and just be like, no earthly connections, like no this, no that. Like, it's like, God damn, yeah. Very Qui-Gon. You're right, Justin Snow. What else did I miss? Yeah. I'd say, oh, yeah. And I don't really, I feel like there is potential with the Ahsoka Grogu story, but, and again, this is a big problem with Star Wars because they keep going into the past, but, well, it wouldn't have been in the past. The fucking sequel trilogy didn't do it. But every time you kind of retcon a story, it gets a little bit hairy. But I don't know. I hope they do it anyway. That's the best part of the Star Wars story, and they just abandoned it. I don't know. That the show, Book of Boba show, just like needed a little energy, and I thought Ahsoka was gonna be it, and then she kind of wasn't. But I was still happy to see her. Just wait for her other show. But what else happened in episode 6? Gunslinger dude. What's his name? I can't remember. I can't remember his name. He's all right. He's not the real thing that I want to talk about. What I want to fucking talk about is Cat motherfucking Bane. Holy shit, you guys. He looked so fucking sick. I'm bringing it back to praising the monsters again. I love that they're so I say monster, but it's more just like aliens and other races, and you know, and monsters, because they do have monsters like with the Rancor and shit. But the creature, there we go. The commitment to high quality creatures in this show has been next level, and Cad Bane, just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I love that they kept the voice of him and just kind of used like a body actor. I loved his look. I loved his little hat. I loved his eyes. I loved his mouth. I loved his outfit. I thought he was fantastic. I'm really sad. Spoiler alert, if you haven't gone to the last couple episodes of what's going to happen with him. I kind of feel like he's a cockroach and he's going to keep showing up everywhere. But even if like the Freetown storyline and in my eyes didn't really amount to much, if it meant that we got to interact more with Cad Bane, that's basically all I care about. And you know what, actually, this kind of brings me back to like another issue that I have with the Book of Boba Fett. It was just like the revolving door of cameos. Like it was just cameos. And like none of them actually did anything for the story. Like, not really. Like, and maybe it's because there actually wasn't really a story to add to. Like, Ahsoka and like Luke added to the Mandalorian story, but that's the Mandalorian story. And I keep talking about like, even though those episodes were in the show, I'm still trying to think of like, because if we're being real, the whole Mandalorian arc like really fucking had nothing to do with the Book of Boba. Like, it really truly didn't have anything to do with it and didn't add to what was going on with Boba Fett at all. So if we're coming back to like the Book of Boba Fett story, I still don't know what exactly those were adding to it other than to just get us fucking idiots excited, which it did, but I'm not going to pretend like it was anything amazing. But yeah, when we finally get to episode 7, bringing it back to Boba Fett himself, it felt like he had like finally just stepped down as the main character. Like, he was like, okay, you're right. This is actually not my show. I'm just going to stop being in it. Like, really, it felt like he didn't really exhibit any kind of idea, like exhibit any sense of authority or have any ideas. Like, is Fennec Shand the leader? Because I think she is. Like, she talks way more than him and she commands all of them. Like, I know she's like his right hand man, and like leaders are supposed to have, you know, their guard and their appointed advisors and stuff, but she literally she does all the talking and she does all the commanding. And it's not even like, I wanted more authority from Boba, and more agency and more of a reason to exist. Like, in that last episode specifically, it's like Din Djarin comes in and he's like, I did this because of this. And then Boba's like, that's a great idea. And like Fennec Shand's like, and then we're gonna do this because of this. And he's like, great idea. And then the teens are like, well, we're gonna stay, and if you leave, then fuck you. And that's that. And he's like, great idea. And I'm like, dude, okay, like, come on. Like, it should have been like, I know he's like the king and he's supposed to have advisors, but like what it should have been is they should have like presented like an idea or like pushed back, and then he reacted to the pushback and then offered, you know, the final, like, you know what, we should actually do this because then this will live. This is my town. This is how I think this is why I should be running it, because I'm the whatever, I'm smart. But like, he literally was just like, great idea. Great idea. Great idea. There I had my 6 lines. I'm going to be gone for the day. It was just weird. I'm curious, like, if they should have just named it like Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, because it was basically her show. But yeah, it still was a good episode overall. And I think it was because I think it's because of the grandiose action, if I'm really thinking about it. Like, because again, what I was kind of hoping for is that all this time that we spent the Mandalorian would somehow tie into like what they were trying to say with Book of Boba, and then like the Book of Boba's story would like all of a sudden make sense. That didn't happen, but there was a grandiose finale with really cool action and a Godzilla Rancor and a dope ass Mandalorian fight with all their pew pew gadgets. And then actually, I think my second favorite action sequence was the little tete-a-tete with Cad Bane and Boba Fett. That was actually really cool. I really did like that. And that actually had some payoff for me, because he used his little Tusken Raider stick. I was like, that was dope. And he used a different fighting style, got him on his back. And that was really cool. You know, that just reminded me of, though. Okay. Another just funny thing that I thought of, like, Cad Bane will like go to the ends of the earth to have a standoff. Like, by the end of episode 7, I swear, like, I feel like he had like 4 standoffs in like 30 minutes. And it's like he only wanted to exclusively interact like via standoff. Like he perfectly orchestrated and bended the world to his fighting style. He's like, no, I just got to meet him one-on-one so I can like look up underneath the brim of my hat and flash my cool gun and fire off my super amazing zingers that I've been working on all week. And like I think it made me laugh. Like I kind of did like laugh out loud, even though it was like the action sequence I ended up liking the most. When like the Rancor finally gets him away, and it's like there's a literal war going on, and still Cad Bane found a way to just be like him and Boba like on a sandy street, and he's like, we meet again, and he flashed his gun. I was like, you love a standoff. My God. I mean, respect, my dude. You have an aesthetic and you're sticking to it. Like, good for you. It's working for you. Yeah, let's see. Although, kind of what I talked about earlier, if he's dead, I think I'm gonna be mad because I didn't really end up caring about I didn't really care about Boba Fett that much, and I care a little bit more about Cad Bane. Was that mean to say? Was that inaccurate? Am I an asshole? Am I the asshole? But yeah, I think that is about all I have to say about the last final episodes of Book of Boba. Let me go through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Yeah. That's basically it. Yeah. All right. Okay, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go through some of these super chats and then we'll call it a day. So, first one is from StrikerX24, $5. Thank you, sir. Finale episode gave me a headache. Why would Mando be happy about the new ship he got? He lives on a ship. Also funny that the best episode is without Boba Fett. I felt the exact same way. The ship looks really fucking cool, and it made for very, very cool moments. But I too was like, he literally he went from an RV to like a motorcycle. Like, where is he gonna put his stuff? Like he don't have a home. He lives out of his van. Like, what is this guy gonna do? Are they just gonna sleep sitting up? Like, I mean, hopefully they like that means that they'll get like a bigger ship, and then that just like goes into the ship. But I literally thought the same thing. You are not alone. Striker X24 again, another $2. Hello. Just talk about a fun bad movie like Neil Breen. I don't know what that means, but I appreciate the $2. Oh, Dr. Random. Hello, my friend. It says $20. Oh, that's why you're the best. Just getting home from a 14-hour workday. Shit. Just gonna shower, eat, and then pass out. I don't even know what's on tonight's street topics. I'm just gonna tell you to watch and read One Piece and the Grey Jedi are underutilized. Good night. Well, I love that you popped in and popped out, and I'm gonna add that to my reading list. And yeah, I mean, not only are Grey Jedi underutilized, a lot of things are underutilized in this show, and a lot of things were underutilized in the sequel. There's a lot of things being underutilized in the Star Wars universe, and I've talked about this in other videos before, where that was a little bit of a problem that they created when they just nixed the extended universe that had happened pre-Disney, and then was like, Disney is the only thing that's canon. But then instead of creating this like expansive experience with all this, like, they basically like cut it off and started anew. But like one of the things that establishes like a long-standing allegiance to like a brand and like familiarity and like emotional ties to it is things that have, you know, people have taken time to build with. You can't ask people to like learn all this shit in like a couple years and then be just on board with everything else. I don't know. It's not the smartest thing in my opinion. Ron C. Sorry, I didn't even answer your question. It's okay. Ron C. with the 1999. Hello. Thank you for that, sir. That is also very generous. He says, hello and welcome back. In Empire Strikes Back, Luke is 24 and too old to train. Grogu is 50. In Clone Wars, Jango never left his son. In Book of Boba Fett, Jango leaves his son. Disney enjoys going against the original storyline. I mean, yeah, if you want to... if you want to point out all the plot holes in Star Wars storylines, like it'll never end. Like it'll just never end. And that is because even you can look at my YouTube video called the problem with Star Wars problem with nostalgia and retcon. Finger guns. The Star Wars problem with nostalgia and retcon. I made a video about this. Is when you're telling stories like in the past, you are limited in the amount of story you can tell because it has to adhere to a certain framework. And so when that happens, they kind of just have to like make these decisions that some things are like, ooh, I didn't notice my hair was kind of fucked up this whole time. Some things are just like less important than others. And it's like, you can just say that this happened because it doesn't really matter and it adds better for this canon. But then it kind of becomes this whole like mismatch thing where like all these stories are trying to justify themselves without doing justice to the greater narrative, and then it just gets so messy, and then you kind of have to have this like cognitive dissonance where you like forget that some things are this to make this story work. And you know, that's why I was so excited when the sequel trilogy was first coming out, and I was like, finally we move forward, right? Like finally we stop living in the past and we stop trying to like dance and like walk through this maze of trying to like stay in this retcon game, but and we tell a new story. And they told the same story. So yeah, sorry. It takes a lot to like really upset me in terms of like, you know, seeing something that's really bad. Like usually when I see something that's bad or disappointing, or like I read something bad or disappointing, then I'll just be like, you know, like whatever, a sequel doesn't exist in my mind. I like, it wasn't great, sucked, boo, I'm just not gonna watch it. The last Star Wars movie, Episode 9, was like the only times I watched a movie and was like filled with rage, like actual rage. So that's how I feel about that. But yeah, Grogu's supposed to be 50, but they age a lot slower. So like actually Ahsoka in the timeline that they're in now is like younger than him, but they live like a lot longer, so they're babies for a lot longer. I think that is it. I will just read a couple more things in the regular chat, and then I'm just going to sign off for the day. Thank you guys for bearing with me for this little messy intro back into the streaming world. And oh my god, wait, I do have an announcement to make that I almost forgot about. And that makes me feel like an asshole. I have joined the Main Gang's Discord channel. So if you guys know, I used to be on the Den of Nerds with Lavis and Hal, and we were all, you know, working together. So they have made their own channel, Main Authority, and it is, and they also have a Discord for it. And I have now my own section in that Discord where I will, you know, be where you could see updates on my YouTube videos, where we can hang out, where we can chat, where we can talk and catch up and, you know, converse about the stream. So I need to get the link for that. I'll post that on my socials. I'll post it on my Twitter and I'll post it on my Instagram. So if you guys want to chit chat a little bit more, if you want to connect with me more, then you can join their Discord and we can all be friends. So other than that, I think that is the end of that. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be in New York. I just realized. So I'm not going to do a next Wednesday stream. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys. This is the last, what month is February, March, April, May. The last few months of my long distance relationship, and then I won't have to fly back and forth anymore, and he'll finally be here, and I can stop being out of town so much and, commit more time to all this stuff. But I will probably do next Friday instead then, because I'll be out of town that Wednesday. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for having patience with me as my brain's moving a little slow today. And I will see you